character. They allow you to do things like if there's a bow that lets you literally shoot rainbow unicorns. There is a hammer that we'll be talking about very shortly here that actually turns your entire character kind of into quicksilver and leaves little footprints behind. A lot of the legendaries leave footprints. They change the look of your character. They're really, really just awesome pieces of art that change up the way everything looks about your character when you're playing with them.
Yeah, they are pretty great. They represent this journey through Guild Wars 2 through the entire game. So it's kind of a big thing to get one, and it takes quite a bit of time. The problem that we ran into, though, because we wanted it to represent mastery of the entire game, but we were running into this random element that was kind of a hard blocker.
Yeah, I think, when you think about a legendary weapon, it should be a legendary journey to go acquire it. And unfortunately, this is an area that we could really improve the game. And that's why we're showing this here today. The whole process of you go to the Mystic Forge currently is your best chance of building a precursor by throwing items into the Mystic Forge, or as some players like to call it, the Mystic Toilet. And every now and then something magical comes out of it, and a precursor can be that. There's also the very lucky chance that one might drop for you out in the world. And this is the key component to building your legendary. It's the most important part. It's kind of the weapon before the legendary. And then when you have your precursor, you can combine it together with all these other components that you go out in the world, and that allows you to actually build your legendary. We felt like that process of acquiring your precursor, of throwing things into the Mystic Forge, or hoping to get lucky, or buying one off the trading post, it wasn't the real vision of what we think a legendary weapon should be. We think it should be a legendary journey that you get to go on. And so our awesome rewards team took on the challenge of saying, let's build a legendary journey. But let's not just build one. Let's build one for every single weapon that we've ever made for legendaries. Make it
really, really good. I actually, you were talking about throwing things into the Mystic Forge. And while we were talking about this before, it reminded me, I have two guildmates that I play with fairly often that both got their legendaries. One of them threw things in the Mystic Forge for months and months and months, because you could also farm up a ton of gold, buy it off the trading post.
Yep.
And he didn't want to do that. He wanted, this is mine. This is part of my legendary journey. So he didn't want a secondhand one, was the thing. Threw things in the forge for months, finally got it, and was just worn out by the time. And then we have the other guy, we were doing a World versus World run, and he got it off of a random guard that we just killed on the way. It took him something like 10 minutes to even realize what was in his bag. Those were the two ways to get them.
Yeah, it puts a lot of extremes, and it's not something that is like the journey aspect of it. It's not something that you can make progress towards and have kind of like a checklist. Like every other aspect of the building the legendary weapon involves you going to the various aspects of the game, whether it's world versus world, whether it's going and defeating the world bosses, whether it's going and doing jumping puzzles, and combining all these elements together in order to really kind of have something that you can show off to everyone and say, hey, look how cool everything that I've done has been. So the rewards team took it on themselves to kind of, let's create a new paradigm. How do we change this up that makes it so that you have this element of, hey, I want to do this really cool thing. It should feel like the reward of the precursor is justified by all of this, and also kind of allow you to tie it into the lore of the world and the lore of the weapon, so that it kind of, again, continues to ground itself in the experience of what Guild Wars 2 is.
Yeah, the collections are thematic to the weapon. So we thought what would be really cool to do today is take a legendary weapon that you're already familiar with if you've been playing Guild Wars 2 and let you see how they're formed.
Yep.
So Mike, why don't you take it away?
All right, so one of the things that we're adding with Heart of Thorns is the mastery system, and this is supposed to be your progression once you hit level 80. This is what's going to allow you to do more cool things and unlock more types of gameplay, and one of these masteries is legendary crafting.
Let's take a peek at your desktop then.
Yes.
You already have all these things unlocked. You've been cheating.
So legendary crafting is a new mastery that players will be able to unlock through using experience points and mastery points to delve into to actually unlock different tiers of these collections that they're going to be contributing to. The very basic one, the first one starts is always going to be a lore-based collection. For the legend that we're going to use as an example for this is going to be the Colossus, which leads into the Juggernaut. And so the first one is talking about going to all of these giants or statues of prominent figures that are big in Tyrian lore and in Guild Wars 2, and either pondering before them, kneeling before them. This is literally just a world tour of where to go and celebrate kind of the concept of what a juggernaut is in Guild Wars 2.
Right, you're sticking with that theme. So what kind of things do we have?
So like one of them is pondering in front of the statue of Jorah. Out in Wayfarer Foothills. Some of them will take you to elements of cleansing one of the cathedrals in Or and pondering before it. Some of them are kneeling before the Colossus in the Cliffside Fractal. Like this starts bringing in all various elements of the world of Tyria and having players come and start this journey, so to speak. And finishing this collection gives you a reward that basically is the recipe for completing the first tier of the Colossus. So all new legendary or all precursors come in 3 tiers. The first one is very lore-based, very kind of grounded in it, and then you'll actually kind of build a not-so-splendid-looking version of the precursor. Yeah. And then once you've done that, automatically will unlock the second collection, which, Colin, do you want to talk about that?
Sure, yeah. So the second collection is, for most precursor weapons, is relatively similar. This one is mostly focused on collection of materials and collection of currencies around the game world. This is the one where the first and the third collection are the most distinct and unique to each precursor. The second one is mostly the same concept, although the items that come out of each of those is different in theme to the thing you're building. Each of these different items are things that you work with a merchant generally in the world, you go talk to, and they will tell you what you need to do to acquire this item for them. So, for example, one might say, go collect 400 geodes and return to turn this in, and in return I will give you this item that you need for your collection. This one is, it's really important as part of adding these items, these ability to build your own precursor, that we maintain some of the value in the economy of all the total value that a precursor currently has in the game today. And so this second phase is in particular aimed at making sure there's a time value and a gold value in each one of these precursors that helps kind of maintain the value of precursors across the game. But it's broken up into really small digestible chunks. And I think that's a huge difference when you think about an epic journey, is you want to go on this amazing journey to eventually get your precursor, but you don't want to have to think of, I have to do all these things all at the same time. You want to say, today this is the thing I'm going to work on. Okay, I'm going to go work on geodes, and while I'm doing it, maybe I'm going to get mithril, and that will help me accomplish another one with mithril ingots in here too. But it's very one piece at a time, so you can feel like you're getting progression and going through.
Yeah, and so much of this, you're playing the game as you're getting it, which is really a thing that we want to happen. It's not just, okay, stop the gameplay that I'm doing and go out and do this other thing. This is just part of the progression.
So these two merchants I've been hanging out with here in Lion's Arch, Grandmaster Craftsman Hobbs and the Scholar next to him, start kind of the second tier, and they'll also give you the first collection for your legendary. But they'll also involve like the Master Weaponsmith. So it goes back to, hey, look, you're building a hammer. Let's go talk to these guys and see what you can do to help their war efforts and trying to build these things.
This is in Lion's Arch, by the way. When you start looking for this guy after Heart of Thorns, that's where he is.
Yes.
And some of these merchants they'll send you to are not just these ones in LA, although these are the most conveniently located ones. You'll also be sent around the world to talk to famous characters around the world who are great crafters as well, and they'll help guide you through being able to build this stuff. And Mike can show you here where the volumes to begin your entire journey kick off once you've unlocked the mastery line that allows you to purchase these.
And so once you have the first tier mastery, allows you to come buy the first book, which starts at first collection. You'll need to kind of progress your mastery tiers to further down to be able to go part of the second collection, and then finally the third one as well. So the third tier, after we've kind of built the actual hammer aspect of it, deals, again, is more of a thematic one. So this usually will happen more about like the artistic elements of what's going on with the legendary weapon. So with the Juggernaut, it basically turns you silver, as Colin was mentioning. And so the way that you actually do that is that first you'll need to build this terrarium that will house all these oozes that you're going to go and collect around the world.
Ew.
And so fortunately, the craftsman right here will actually sell you the recipe of this terrarium that you need to build. And then from there, you're going to be going and defeating these oozes, combining them to create kind of a chromatic ooze inside this terrarium. And that's just the first tier. So you already are going to do some more exploration about this and find out where all the various oozes are on Tyria. And then you're going to start feeding it various chromatic or ooze-type beverages or foods to kind of help grow your chromatic ooze inside the terrarium.
There was a lot of thought that went into each one of these. Of what
really,
if someone really was going to make this legendary, what exactly in our world would they have to go out and build, and what little components should they put together? And this one, like Mike said, because of that chromatic feel that it adds, it's like, well, ooze. Clearly, somebody stuffed a whole bunch of ooze into this hammer, and that's how this whole thing works.
Obviously,
I mean, it was. Everybody knows
right?
that, but here we are now able to do the same thing ourselves.
But really, I've gone through some of the testing of the other legendaries that I'm not going to tell about right now, but that was the thing that struck me, is how much preparation and how much planning went into making these fit each legendary, and it works so well.
Yeah, this was a lot of work from the rewards guys, and they really put their heads together. They came up with what the initial paradigm of what we wanted to do Legendary Journey moving forward. And we're talking about a weapon here today, but this is exactly like what we're doing moving forward with pretty much every legendary that we're doing. So like we talked a little bit briefly about fractals back in the couple of months ago or a month ago now, about how there's going to be a legendary backpack there, and it's going to fit a very similar paradigm of you're going through this journey, you're going to have multiple things happening in different collections and different tiers, and kind of give people kind of check boxes that they can say, okay, today I've done this, and give you just kind of smaller goals to accomplish something big, like a precursor and the legendary after it.
I think just a kicking off point too, of like, it's so daunting to think about how to go about this entire process currently in game until the system arrives.
It's a lot.
It's a huge read through of wiki pages, buried in wiki pages with more wiki pages, and those wiki pages are amazing. Shout out to whoever put those together.
Thank you, wiki team.
Also
seriously.
to the app, the Legendary Guide app is amazing as well. But having this in game where it's exposed to players, where they can open up their achievement panel and see all of this, learn it through a mastery line, and be able to say, okay, now I know all the things that I need to do just to get started on this thing that sounds cool. Wow, a legendary journey. I think that's a huge addition for us as well. The percentage of people who are aware of what you needed to do to move all the way through this process, I think it was very small in the grand scheme of Guild Wars 2 players, and we're really hoping having a system like this will allow a lot more people to feel like a legendary is a goal they can achieve, and they have a clear path to get there, and that path involves ooze for this one.
Yep, you can absolutely do it, and it's going to be a little clearer. It's going to be a lot clearer.
Yeah.
So can we get a peek at what else we have to do on this collection?
Yeah.
I'm like pushing for spoilers here, but I'm not even a little bit sorry.
So the final step after you've kind of fed up your chromatic ooze is you're actually going to be kind of coating yourself with it, and then you're going to go take various damage from places around the world. Like the one I'm highlighting right now is going into the lava in the heart of Mount Maelstrom. And while coated, if you want to dance in the lava, so to speak. But it's, again, kind of training your ooze to be able to take this damage, weather this damage, so that when you actually infuse your final legendary weapon, it's something that will be there with you the entire time.
I feel like your ooze is like working out.
Yeah. Do you want to give some of the examples of some of the things that you do with specifically in that collection? With some of them, there's a falling damage one, right? Or you actually have to jump off of a high place with your ooze.
I believe that is right.
Yeah.
That is a weird thing to say. I just want to point out that jump off of a high thing with your ooze is maybe something nobody's ever said before.
Well, your ooze might be afraid of heights, and for it to fit into your legendary weapon, it has to conquer that fear.
Exactly. Get over that.
Yeah, what other fears?
Yeah, so like you talk about lasers from Specs' laboratory from the jumping puzzle. There's the one. Here's the one. Falling for 10 seconds without touching the ground. It's all sorts of things that we're just going to allow our players to kind of have fun with and help kind of train their ooze, how to train your ooze as this journey goes on. So like some of it's going to come from various fights, like the Risen Ore Priest. Some of it's going to come from environmental damage. Some of it's going to come from experimentation. Yeah. And then finally, it's just purchasing the Juggernaut Volume 3 from Hobbs, our craftsman here, who will actually kind of bring this all together. And that, again, will finish off your collection, which then allows you to kind of go to over to your weapon smithing stations. And now there's a new section in here, as I go hide all this, for legendary components. So like the Colossus for the first tier actually has an essence that comes from finishing the first collection. And you will also get this from salvaging your precursor as you're upgrading it, because it's actually, you're building one, and then you're going to go do the collection. You're going to salvage your initial precursor, or tier 1 precursor.
Oh, that's going to hurt.
Yep. Use that as a component for your tier 2 one, and carry that in as you're going from tier to tier until you actually build your full legendary. So it's basically just taking your first weapon and making it cooler and adding more things to it, and ultimately adding the ooze aspect of it in that final step that brings it into the legendary and kind of ties everything all thematically together.
And this is a good time to point out too that actually not just Lindsay and Andy on the reward team played a huge part in building this, but it's taken a long time for them to put this whole thing together. This was a lot of work for the art team as well, because they ended up going back and making a unique skin for every single tier of precursor weapon. So tier 1 unlocks a tier. You salvage that to get a second tier of precursor, to get a third tier, and then you've got your precursor. And then there's new art for the precursors as well as part of all of this. So there's a ton of new artwork in all these different weapons that you can unlock for your wardrobe, and multiply that times every legendary and new legendaries.
So
in the
much
jungle.
work.
Oh. Yes. So yeah, some of this is going to be actual going in and crafting using like shards of glory that you earn through PvP reward track and dailies. Because again, we still wanted to have the elements of going and doing, bringing more elements of Guild Wars 2 from like PvP, PvE, World versus World, and kind of bringing it all together. So you are proving that you have mastery over the entire aspect of the game. And again, it's not being able to excel at these things, but just go in there, participate, get some rewards, have kind of those tracks that you're kind of working towards.
And just doing them.
And those goals.
And Mike, you can do this for every precursor in the game, correct? You're not limited to having to pick one specific precursor?
Correct. Yep.
Right.
Basically, going back to our vendor will allow you to purchase whichever one you want to start with. If you want to, you could work on multiple of these at a time and go through any of them or as many of them as you want.
Just try them all at once if you're feeling incredibly ambitious and you don't like sleep. So I do want to mention something that I think you and I talked about. It's been like a year, but we talked about Madri and how that helped us figure out how all of this works.
Yeah, I'll first say I stuck my foot in my mouth on this one a couple years ago.
That's awesome.
Yeah, we published a blog saying these are the next big steps for Guild Wars 2, and just about everything in that blog, we ended up doing in that year. This was one of the things where at the time our plan was to add a system to the game that allowed you to acquire a precursor weapon, and to make that much easier to do. And as we designed and kind of started building out the system that we originally planned to have, we just didn't love it. It didn't feel legendary. It didn't feel cool. And this concept of collections was born out of a lot of those discussions of what can we do to truly have epic legendary journeys in a game that doesn't have quests. We don't, other than your personal story or living world, there isn't really a traditional quest system. So we don't have the big give you this step and then this step and then this step. And collections were born out of that, but we really needed to do some test runs to see, is this going to be successful? What is it going to feel like to break up a big epic journey into a bunch of mini steps in a collection? And Madri was definitely a big experiment for us to see what that's like. I think the skins and silver wastes also to build out your armor set.
Oh man, yeah.
That was another time for us to test and iterate on this. And everything we've learned from that and all the great feedback we've got from all of you guys about those collections allowed us to build this system out and really get this right and have something I think people are really going to enjoy.
I don't think that's so much sticking your foot in your mouth as this is game development, and we had high standards for this, and we got there and thought, okay, we can do better.
Yeah, I mean that's the tough part of saying anything about like, hey, here's the next thing. This is something that we're going to deliver, something that we're working on. Is you definitely run into this point of sometime in development, sometimes weeks before it's supposed to be done, you might realize this thing isn't working. We need to throw it out and do it all over again. And that's happened before. We've built entire systems that we've completely thrown out and said, this is not the right thing for the game. Let's do something different.
Are you telling me everything does not go exactly as planned and we can't tell the future?
That would be amazing.
That is outrageous that it doesn't work like that.
I think one of the things I'm most proud about this expansion and features like this is I think a lot of time of the first couple years of Guild Wars 2, a lot of it was experiments. It was a chance for us to we were trying to figure out what a live game in this world could be. What systems we really wanted to use to grow and expand the game. We did things like we put in the antitoxin spray as a new way to buy skills for spending, the old skill point system.
Yep.
And it just wasn't that cool. It didn't feel like a meaningful way to add skills and traits to the game. We added some new traits in the new system that lets you go out in the world and gather traits, and it just wasn't that cool. It didn't feel like a true meaningful system for how we allow those parts of the game to progress. And I would say what I love most about this expansion, and this feature in particular is indicative of this, is everything that we have here are systems that we believe fundamentally are exactly where we want to go with the game in the future, and we don't have to do anything else with any of these. We really have a clear path that in the future all we're going to do is add to these. We're going to add new legendaries using this system. We're going to add new skills and traits using the elite specialization system. Progression for PvE in the form of masteries. PvP leagues is a form of competition for PvP. All of these systems really are, they work for the goals that we have, and it means that we don't have to spend any more time trying to figure out exactly what the live experience for Guild Wars 2 should be. We know exactly what all of it is, and now we just can build on it. And I think for our players who've been on this 3-year journey along with us, I think that's probably really heartening really exciting for them to hear as well. Because I think we've definitely heard that feedback of like, hey, figure it out, what are we going to do? And we recognize that, and we agree. But I think sometimes you have to fail to succeed, and you have to stand up and cheer when you fail and say, look at all these awesome things we learned. That's how we're going to do great in the future.
Yeah, and that's how we keep making it better and better, and bringing really, really cool things to the game.
And that's how amazing shows like Guild Chat are born as well.
That was incredibly smooth.
Thank you. Yes, we iterate and grow. And now, how many episodes in 2 days?
I have lost track. I think we're on like 7. So it's a lot, but really it's all kind of a blur today. But
so
seriously, that was really good.
Can I bring this all back? This is all stuff that players are going to be able to get into. In October 23rd, when Heart of Thorns launches, everyone's going to have access to the system. This is all part of like things that players are going to be able to do within the game, and just one more kind of bonus reward or progression system that we now have that players can actually work towards these epic moments.
And we know that one thing you guys are all really excited about finding more about are the new legendaries as well, and that is something that everyone has to look forward to sometime between now and the launch of the expansion.
Sometime between now and launch, Lindsay and I are going to do a legendary weapon live stream. We have promised this for so long, and Lindsay and I have been working together on this since I think last March when she wrote that blog post. We have been trying to make this happen, and that's like you said, game development. Things happen, and we pull it back, and the teams behind the scenes have been working on this for so long. We are just about ready to show. So yeah, before Heart of Thorns launches in 27 days, Lindsay and I will be on Guild Chat together, and we were going to show off a new legendary weapon and some of the collection pieces.
I think one really cool thing about the new legendaries too, and the new precursors, is all of them are account bound.
Yep.
And I'll say, if I could go back in time and change something about the reward system, one of the things I would love for us to do is if all of the legendaries have been account bound from the start, because I think to truly have an epic journey, it should feel like you did you did most of it yourself, right?
This is mine. This is the thing that I created.
And we felt like we're at a point we just can't go back and do that with the existing ones. There's too much baggage coming along with that. There's too many of them for sale in the trading post to try to fix that. But every new legendary in the game, and not just legendary weapons, but the backpacks that you talked about,
There's
Mike,
more.
Legendary armor via raids, all of that legendary content is account bound, so you have to play the content. You get to play the content and go on these epic journeys. And if somebody is wearing any of that gear, if they have that legendary weapon, if they have that precursor, they actually went and did it. They personally accomplished that goal. And I think that means the new legendaries are going to have an additional tier of prestige probably over even the existing ones today.
I'm making it worth it.
Yeah, which means you have to go get them all now.
I do.
Yeah.
All right, thank you guys so much for showing this off. Thank you guys for spending some time with us, and we will see you on the next Guild Chat.